Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here with us today and to get to learn from you and for all of the learners that are going to be listening in on their own time as well. So let's jump right in. I'd love to just have you introduce yourself, share your background, and what led you to work in nonprofits.
Hi, Jen. I'm so happy to be here and be part of this community at the nonprofit and invite you all the nonprofit leaders and collaborators to share their actions and their projects, their objectives, and learn from you and all the team from Coursera and share some of the experience that we've got. My name is Virgilio Rivera. I'm from Mexico. I'm 47 years old now. I study a master in innovation, and I created a project that I call Smart Use or Wise Use. In Spanish is Uso Inteligente. This is a story of a caveman that represents the origin of the humans and the caveman that we all have inside. Our own responsibility of how we use things, we call this caveman uso, use. And this caveman, as a copyright of educational project, has led to the creation of a non-profit organization that has 7 elemental objectives. We start with education and employment as a key elemental objective, but it's not more important than the rest of them. The second one that we consider key is the human population control, then water care, nutrition, pollution reduction, species protection, and ecosystems care. We are learners from the United Nations, from UNDESA, UNEA. We have collaborated with the UN Energy Compacts, doing partnerships with Water Wise Use, with ECOSOC and UNDESA, and always learning from Coursera. I have studied more than 25 courses around sustainability and around education, and around how to prepare myself as a person and a professional. Not just in nonprofit objectives, because as nonprofits, we're always related with multi-sectorial and multi-disciplinary people. We collaborate with government, we collaborate with academia, we collaborate with private sector companies, industries. We also collaborate with persons in their houses and public spaces. And we're glad also collaborate with university and different schools, students and teachers, supporting projects around the 7 objectives, not just in Mexico. We also have representatives in other parts of the planet. And I'm very glad to send this message with Jen and all the people that is here. I want to welcome everyone, and let's start this talk and share if someone is leading a nonprofit and want to join us at the Coursera leading group for nonprofits. We will be sharing all this morning, a beautiful morning, very, very hot here in Querétaro. I don't know where you are, but climate is turning very heat. And well, I wish you all well and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. So awesome to get to know more about you, and a little cold where I am here in Sacramento, but it will warm up, no doubt. Wow, so it sounds like you have a lot of experience, and it's taken a lot of resources, education to kind of get you where you are to be able to have the impact and scale that the work you are doing has. And just a little bit about my background. Before Coursera, I have been in nonprofits almost my entire career, and I'm lucky in private sector to be focused on roles that are similar to nonprofits in that it's people focused. We're helping people, we're connecting learners to resources that they need. So I'm really grateful for that, and really grateful for the space that you're creating in our community here, because when I was in nonprofits, I felt alone and like I did not have all of the information I needed, and didn't know where to start. So I think it's such a cool resource that you're offering and the insights that you're sharing today. Uh, so kind of on that note, and I just touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to hear from you on why you think it's important for nonprofit professionals, nonprofit leaders to continue their learning.
Well, learning is not just capturing knowledge, it's also sharing what you learn. And that sharing can lead you to create more and impact more in your society. Nowadays, everyone needs to follow up proper evaluations around productivity. And if we talk about productivity, we have seen the impact of humanity in nature. And it doesn't matter if we have a very good return on investment, economically talking. We need to measure as also social impact and environmental impact. And all companies, government, all sectors, we're challenging that change, and education is needed for everyone. For us to get all the resources to build up a structure of a nonprofit, a company, and educational materials, invention as patents, secret in different things around biotechnology, robotics, or different tools that can help people to measure good use of the resources and tools. We consider very important that the needs of a project needs to be measured as human people needs and the resources that they put on their projects and how they use them, materials, the legal requests of the project, also the other part as economical and financial, and the conjunction of all of those requirements for a project is not different for a nonprofit that for a profit or a company. We believe in a society, but we don't differentiate what it's a donation, what's a contribution, and what's a charity. And for nonprofits, it's not to receive charity. We need to change that way of thinking to move forward and look how we can get the best resources for our projects. I have dealt with it for more than 12 years now as a nonprofit, more than 15 years as a smart use and a structure that wants to lead projects that are measuring and doing evaluations, proper evaluations around first, the natural impact of our actions and projects, second, the social impact, and third, the economical impact. When we consider each project differentiated and individual, we allow people involved in that project to work on their own project to search for the resources that they need. It's sad for me to share also that uso inteligente, smart use, has been lived with just for personal contribution. We don't receive, we haven't received any public support, not from any government, federal, states, or local government. We have achieved as persons, as professionals, to get a salary where we collaborate with government as commissioners for some programs and for some things, but we face the challenge that every time that we change an administration in our government, we need, as a social society and civil society, we need to look forward to keep on going our programs and get integrated in the new programs for the new government. Those challenges lead us also to being recognized in some projects and some programs that impact in society and that keeps going, projects that comes from schools, from students, from teachers, from leaders of other nonprofits, to get some support, and not just economically, materials, technology, legally, and as well as partnerships to enter to different projects. I want to share that in the 7 objectives that Uso Inteligente Smart Use has, we have 16 key projects as category projects. I'm going to mention some of them. As pollution reduction, we have a category for installation of solar technology, photovoltaic technology for electricity, and for water heat. We have more than 40 pools for swimming that they spend a lot in gas and diesel to heat up over 29 degrees Celsius. And those projects that are social and community, we have presented the different options to get the resources and pay the technology and support that community to pay that technology with the savings that they will have with burning gas or diesel for heating up that pool. Some of the projects as a platform of technologies of information allow all the people in Uso Inteligente and Smart Use to have their own computer, to work in their own house, to have access to Google Drives, to access to platform as Coursera, to learn from different spaces, and to have their own projects in a platform that allows different experts to strengthen those projects and people to receive what they required. I don't want to stand a lot about the requirements and resources for a company or for a nonprofit, but as society, we need to understand that we're all part of the civil society and the nonprofit, not just as volunteers. It's about governance of all of us, looking forward for the needs of our own community and our locality. If we act locally, we impact globally. But if we learn globally, we can improve locally. And that's a great relation of how to be a learner at Coursera. And it's just not just to learn how to learn, it's also to learn how to teach and to show how you learn, what you learn and what you have achieved.
Absolutely. So many great wisdom sharings that you just gave us there. And yeah, I almost feel like we're in the middle of creating a tagline for our community group on, connecting learning globally and impacting locally through those learnings. Yeah, I love that. And
yeah,
and what you're saying is so true in my experience too, where there's so much nuance, there's so many moving parts, there's such diverse things that you have to do in leading nonprofits that I don't think a lot of people realize if they're not in nonprofits, if they're volunteering a few hours at a nonprofit, that's the extent that they think nonprofits kind of have to operate at. But you're really running a company and you're doing it under these different constraints and with these different requirements that are so different than a private entity. And so, in my experience, I think learning is crucial. It's instrumental to be able to know what you're doing to do that. And I actually took on a nonprofit here in my town when I was 25 and hadn't really been in the working world. And so that's when I felt like a huge imposter and really turned to resources like Coursera to learn. And validate what I was doing or shift gears and try something new. So yeah, absolutely resonating everything that you're saying here.
Yeah, I was also thinking the comments of the people at the Coursera community for nonprofits that the question and the reflection was in one phrase, what would you think about nonprofits? And so many comments around it's like the organization of people looking forward for the main needs of their locality. And those main needs will create those nonprofits. It's like it's not just the government, it's the governance of the community that will lead on those needs for searching for the best solutions. Participation, it's a union of people, needs capacity and need also platforms of education. One of the courses that I'm thinking right now that I love it was of the University of Sydney, that it's innovation through design, think, make, break, repeat. And that it's part of our methodology for a diagnostic analysis per person and project. That even when we have a small, medium, or big project, if we have a project that is short term, middle term, or long term, it doesn't matter. We start from zero and we start doing the methodology of research and analysis, evaluation, design of action plans, implementation and improvements. And in each of those phases, we implement that methodology of the University of Sydney. Think, make, break, and repeat in each part of a phase of the project. All the thinking ideas will follow up to make them happen, and then break it. And to break it means to evaluate properly what you're doing about your ideas. And finally, to repeat the same process. Think again, do again, make, and break again. That's the way you're gonna have different ideas properly evaluated in an impact that socially you're measuring, and your achievements and would your improve what you can improve in the next future or the next phases of the project. We've been sharing also different courses. I have a list that we will share also with the community, but some of the questions that you want to share, Jen, will be related to those courses that are I think would be the best courses for the people that are trying to achieve more knowledge for personal projects, for leading a nonprofit, or even their own work, whatever is the sector is. The invitation will be for the people that it's working in the governmental sector, academia, or private sector, to also join a civil society, to also join a nonprofit. It's not to rest, it's to add more value.
Yeah, absolutely. Great segue. I don't know if we want to get into it now or if we want to post it in the group after, but yeah, I would love to hear what are some of your favorite Coursera courses that you think would be helpful for nonprofit folks.
Yeah, I enjoy the one of the University of Houston, that is Brief History of Human Space Flights. It was one of the first courses that I took. It was pretty hard, all the exams, but it's one of the virtues of Coursera and the platform, that you can make all the mistakes and you will have a chance to repeat back again all your learnings, all the videos, and check out all your notes, enter to the forum, ask questions to other learners, ask and search for your guides and mentors. And well, this course related to my innovation career and master in innovation. Right now, I want to design a PhD in innovation for sustainability. And the relation of innovation for a brief history of human space flights, it's the amazing inventions that we can find, and how all the space flights, the human space flights, and all the missions searching for technology has turned how we're living right now, how we're communicating, how we're having this Zoom meeting, how we're sending all this message and knowledge around the planet. Another course that I enjoy a lot is large marine ecosystems assessments and management from the University of Cape Town, joined it with the UN GEF, Global Environmental Facility, and different academias around the planet and observatories, institutes, that they bring a platform that it's the large marine ecosystems hoops that you learn around the transboundary diagnostic analysis of how the large marine ecosystems assessments are right now on the planet. And it's sad to find that, for example, Mexico has 5 large marine ecosystems: the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean Sea, in the Pacific side, the north, the Cortez, the Mar de Cortez, and Pacific in Central America. The 5 are in fact in the modules of productivity, fish and fisheries, pollution, socioeconomy, and governance. And those projects are challenging because the transboundary diagnostic analysis of them doesn't depend just on one nation or one policy of one country. It depends on some of them or in 5 countries, some of them 2 countries, some of them there are involved more than 25 countries, as the Caribbean Sea that goes all the Caribbean Sea to the South America in the Atlantic Ocean. It also crossed to part of large marine ecosystems in Africa, in Nigeria, that comes with other sea coasts to the ocean in the Atlantic. That course I enjoyed a lot because I studied, then I turned mentor, and in Coursera, as part of a translator community of the Coursera, I did the translation of the course from English to Spanish. So all my learnings were going, getting better, not just in English, also to translate it in my language. I haven't took any course for languages. I've learned English. When I speak in English, I think in English and I talk. I have my mistakes and I'm sorry for that, but I am always learning from those mistakes, and I love to share the experience to talk in different languages. But my native tongue is Spanish, and those exercises for me in a professional way are amazing. To be authorized by Coursera and the community of translators to finish that course for Latin American people was amazing. As also right now to have being part of the leading with you of the nonprofit community is something that's part of my growth and my education. The opportunities that I see at Coursera for different courses is, I don't know, it doesn't have an ending, just as the logo of Coursera, that it's infinite, you know, like we won't finish if we want to take a course of each of the universities that are participating here. You know, I love it. The University of London, What Future for Education. from the Manchester University and other universities of England. I enjoyed the water sanitation management and policies. I took part 1 and part 2. I have took some climate change mitigation in developed countries. At the moment, I'm taking innovation entrepreneurships from thinking to founding, and I'm taking some times on those with the nonprofit courses. Some things to get innovations for a nonprofit and enter to a platform to get contributions and different list of people that wants to create sustainable change of actions and projects. And I've been working a lot in technology. I'm good on it because I entered to platforms. I know how to enter to internet and to teach people how to use computers, but I'm not an engineer of systems. I'm always I would love to do programming and design and all those things, but it's not one of my best skills.
It's amazing. There's so many layers of learning there. I would say you're absolutely embodying what Coursera is all about and why we exist. So I absolutely love that. And your approach to what types of courses that you take to help the work that you're doing is really interesting too. I think, for me, a lot of my recommendations would be on taking business courses, because nonprofits are a business just in a different way. And I think my experience with nonprofits is that a lot of people forget that, and they think that you can just kind of build the plane as you fly, which you can in some instances, but I think you also need to rely on set business practices that exist in the world and work for private companies and model your nonprofit after that to have similar successes. So that would be my recommendation, is just general business courses. If you're taking on a new nonprofit and wanting to get the word out, take a marketing course, learn how to do digital marketing, learn about SEO. Simple, small things that you can do to be more effective in the work that you're doing. Absolutely.
Thank you.
One of the things. Oh, go ahead.
One of the things for innovation is that we always start from zero, and we can collaborate with anyone. You can learn from a doctor, with gynecologists, psychologists, sexual experts, and we can design and look what an expert in some area, what they're not looking at, and search for different areas of opportunity for innovation.
Absolutely. And yep, you are living that in all that you're doing in the Coursera community and in your role. And kind of on a similar note, in managing nonprofits and helping your staff kind of rise up to the challenge and meet the moment. How do you balance that with your staff for making sure they have access to learning and development while also getting the day-to-day work done?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think that to lead a team and allow everyone to skill up their capacities is I don't know how to say delegate. It's a way to interact with people and learn what they're doing and teach them what you've learned. It doesn't mean that the team can go alone and search for what the project and a special project needs. As a representative of or leaders of a community or a nonprofit, and you're having different projects, is to go behind the leader of each project. If you are the one who started that project, if you're the one who is the principal leader of your project, and something is not going the way you want, you're the only one who's responsible for that. Of course, you have people that will go and you can tell them, they will come to you and probably they give you a lot of ideas on why you should do this, or I recommend you to do this. And sometimes it's pretty easy to say to someone to do something, but if you don't exercise and you don't show how to do that, then you're not congruent with your programs or your plans. And as a leader, you need to show your people how to do things. And if you're leading some action or some small project or a short-term project that needs to be done in this month, and you're not there to solve it, your team will be lost. And sometimes you want to pick up some group of people, but if they're not convinced to do something, or they don't have the skills to do something or the proper information to do something, the project also will be lost. So that interaction from the leading team to the group of collaborators or volunteers is essential to get the job done in the best way. I think that Coursera also, in those communities that are creating, it's an excellent opportunity for people to search for groups of experts that are interested in similar projects. And that way, technology would also help to do better teams of people that collaborates and get into some project. I have also found that, for example, we have some projects that they can have more than 5 or 6 years without getting resources, without being done or being finished. And there's someone that just arrived to that project, and in 1 week, he has better achievements and advances than the team that was working on it for 5 years. To include those people is not easy. To include those experts is not easy because some groups of people will say like, no, it's my project. I'm not going to share opportunities with someone that just become in 1 week and solve something. Those kind of agreements are not just the legal action. It's a value action. It's a governance action of what the project needs and the requirements of a team to get the job done. Non-profits communities are an excellent example, not just for government, not just for private sector, also for academia and schools. I understand that private schools and public schools, indigenous schools are completely different in an instruction or the different ways that they can receive support, materials, technology, economical support, financial support, or even legal support. But nonprofits are experts to share in different ways of thinking in a society the best solutions. In a company, in a government, of course, leaders will say, I want this to be the 3 or 4 programs or the 3 or 4 priority projects for our organization. For the nonprofit to select that, we have the inclusion that everyone that is part of that nonprofit has a power of a voice, and not just a power of a voice, it's a power of participation. I see that Budak Washi is here with us in the chat as well. He's from Africa, and African nonprofits are different than Latin American nonprofit, North American nonprofit, European nonprofit, Asian nonprofits. And also in Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania is different. The way the people in society gets united for non-profit objectives and projects. But the essence of those groups, as we saw in the chat community, and the answer is that they have a capacity to know and understand what the main needs for that society and for that locality are, and the best way to make plans for solutions. I don't know if you have another question, Jen, or we're gonna have some chance to interact with the people at the meeting.
Yeah, we can open it up. If you do have any questions for our listeners, feel free to raise your hand, unmute. Otherwise, we do have some other questions in our back pocket to talk about. Also keeping an eye on time. Let me look at how we're doing with what we scheduled, but yeah, any questions, feel free to jump in. Let's see here. Okay, we are good on time. We put it for a full hour. Okay, well, feel free to interrupt me if any questions do come up. I'm just going to keep going on my list now. Absolutely loving everything that you're sharing, and it's resonating with my experience here too. Here being at past nonprofits, not Coursera. I think we already touched on some of these. So I'd love to hear any insights that you have on, and you kind of touched on this with our the works tagline that we're creating on the spot here, but on the power of networking and collaboration, within your own local areas and then also globally. So why is it so important for us to have a space in the Coursera community for nonprofit leaders to come together? What kind of magic does that create?
Oh yeah, well, the contacts and the honor to meet people from other countries, to learn from different cultures, and opportunities to travel are amazing for me. I was sharing that I'm addicted to travel. I got addicted to travel since I was 9 years old. I've got the opportunity to study in Canada. And I remember that when I went back from a camping and inter-scholarship experience, I told my parents that traveling was amazing, and they were saying like, well, this is not easy to find a kid that say that. It's amazing to travel, but I was pretty convinced that traveling was better than going to a library and read a book and learn from a book, whatever it is, like it's a different way of learning and practicing. Also sharing and learn about adaptability, learn from other cultures, another way of doing things. Right now, I've been in 73 countries. My goal is to step in more and learn more from more than 100 countries. I would love to be in 100 countries. Every time it's more difficult for me to go to another country. But if I have a chance to go back to one that I've visited, it's I will take it, even if it's not a new country for me. It's a new space. I've been in one place twice, and it's not different 2 years after, 3 years after, or 5 years after. One experience as well. It's some days ago I was contacted by Tali from Israel. She was recommended by someone at LinkedIn, and you told her about a project in Israel that we can talk about. We made a Zoom 2 days ago. She was sharing. She has a very nice project that it's surprise cake that involves the job of old people that in a yoga and exercising, they have a combination of different programs and actions to help and support old people in their communities. She has more than 3,000 volunteers, and has become like if people wants to learn about yoga and doing exercises and have wealth and better nutrition at Israel, and she doesn't know how to grow outside of Israel and share that knowledge, and I was like, okay, you don't need to be part of a huge group or to get absorbed by another organization that has more economical resources or material resources than you, or whatever, or governance authorization, or any other resources in human power that can lead and make that project grow. And I was showing to her that creating alliance, searching for ventures or proper ventures, she can grow in a special way. And this kind of platforms as Coursera allows you to share that. It's not just for finding a university and what you want to learn, it's the community that you're finding over there. And that opportunity is to meet a friend that is something that doesn't have a value. It's valuable, it's priceless. And that kind of experience that you get traveling and making a friend in another country, it's not one door for opportunities that it's open. It's a community. It's a lot of houses that will open the doors to you to share projects, to learn from other projects, to support and be part of other projects. If you start succeeding as a person, you can support someone else to succeed in your locality. And if then you have 5 people having success in your community, then you can help 10 more. And the sustained chain will grow in a way that you will have groups doing actions that have a better impact socially, environmentally, and of course economically.
Absolutely. That's so cool. And I think, not to be biased, but I completely agree on kind of the power of community here at Coursera, right? The learning that we offer at Coursera, yes, it's the amazing courses, the partners, the universities that are working with us to build this great content that's accessible for anyone. But I think it's the people too, right? And you're not the first person that I've heard that has refined their language skills by engaging in the translation community and in the community in general. Our community guide, Visavi, that you might know, I message her every day and say, hey, have a good night when I'm waking up, because she's in southern India, and we have another one in Kashmir, very, very north, between India and Pakistan. And it's just such a great opportunity to see how other people are living life and learn from them. And even if you can't travel, you could experience that in the Coursera community just by engaging. Absolutely. And
yeah, and maybe someone invites you and you have a chance to visit that friend and you can get that trip done.
Yeah, and say, like, what's going on in your world? Here's what it looks like outside my window. What about you?
Yeah, exactly.
And on that note, we have a question from our friend listening in here from Zimbabwe. The question is on how do you avoid self-isolation or donor monopolization, which is quite common in Africa. Not sure if it's the same in North and South America.
Well, that question is amazing because we live different type of corruption and control in all the planet. I understand Africa will share some examples that are different as what you hear in Mexico or Colombia or Venezuela. Latin America, it's a shame for me that we have that that ideas, that people will say like, what's going on in Mexico about corruption? Yeah, the whole world knows about that, and it's a shame that we have that badge in our images. Not the whole country is like that. Not whole people. It's a mistake. One of the things that I've shared in an opportunity to talk in the United Nations was that one of the most important mistakes that I have made is to disqualify a difference. In one way, because I have missed the opportunity to learn from that difference, and in another way, because I don't understand what kind of negative impact I will bring to that difference. If I don't have the capacity to talk with someone about the resources of the monopolization of resources, in how is it going in my country or in another country, I won't have the opportunity to solve the problem. I will just add more troubles to that situation. I have lived that in my country, that I have found out that we changed from administration in one government, even if we vote, even if we decided who is going to be our next president, our next governors, our next mayors of localities, deputies or whatever, and we decide, but we don't follow up the plans on our community. Mexico also needs to get involved to the solutions. And even if I'm fighting and I'm including projects, programs, information, and I'm supporting with people some projects, and I get documentation received from the government, I see that the social budget, I see that the public budget, the state budget is used just in how you, the way you say it, in a donor monopolization, donations and funds in an international way. Those projects that we have asked for some resources as a Mexican nonprofit for international organizations, when Mexican government receives them, they give it to the nonprofits that the government wants, and not to the nonprofits that are including the projects or the ones that are working on the real projects in society. I understand that frustrations because I live it, and once I understand that my government in Mexico needs to learn that the resources for civil society should go straight ahead to those projects, to schools, to teachers that are working, to collaborators, to volunteers that are doing operation actions and projects, they will understand that the social impacts will bring benefits to everyone, even to their governments. We took the decision in 2018 to 19 when I visited India, and I included in the World Bank 3 key projects. One of them was to make a solar field in Mexico with more than 50 megas of generation of electricity. It was a project of $75 million approximately in Mexico. I visited Lagos in Nigeria where I saw the field and the land where one of the biggest solar fields is going to be built. Right now, the project is amazing, and I have seen that from 2018 till today, a solar field of 50 megas in Mexico won't happen if the government doesn't really follow up the energy reforms, not just educational reforms and policies in our country. The energy reforms and the learning that energy goes more than electricity, goes more than water, goes more than food, and goes more than the work that society is doing. So I consider your question and your I appreciate that, and I understand that civil society and nonprofits in Africa are doing an amazing effort in the high-level political forums with NGO major groups, with volunteer groups, and groups of different organizations submitting cases and letters and projects that will allow the United Nations to create the policies and to follow up the policies and the commitments that we have made as different partnerships and stakeholders on that in that point. I hope Kudak Washe, I don't know if it's that the way that you pronounce it. I would like to hear your voice if you can open your microphone.
Yeah, thank you for answering the question. It was quite accurate, and it's yes, you're close. It's Kudakwashi. You're close, so you're not that far. Kudakwashi.
Well, thank you very much. Do you represent the civil association, Kudakwase?
Yes, I work well, like what was mentioned before, like I can relate to what Jen said and how I took over an organization called United Nations Association of Zimbabwe, and I'm now running it, and I was relating to some of the challenges which she encountered, also, how it is important to try and resource, and how most of the times I think that you actually need, before you actually start going about, you start screaming and saying you need money. It's actually, have you set up structures within the organization? Have you removed the toxicity that was there to be able to access the funds? And then when you do access the funds, you actually know what to do with them. And that's one thing which I notice is kind of what happens within my country's perspective, whereby you get organizations that have gotten onto this list, like my question, which I was mentioning on monopolization, they've gotten this list from big organizations and they just get the money. They just get the money. But when they get the money now, they don't have the ideas. They don't know what to do with it. And when you're met with that, then they do calls. And then now it took me some time to actually notice that I applied for different calls. You'd be sharing your ideas, coming up with projects. And then I finally noticed this organization that had done a call, and they'd taken my project or my proposal word for word and not given me, but then they implemented it. And I was like, oh, so this is why organizations are now doing calls. They get the money, they don't know what to do, then they do calls, whereby now they get the ideas from other people and they don't want to benefit. And then you see that not wanting to spread out and wanting to incorporate these other organizations, they would rather suck up their intellectual property, so to speak. And that's how it operates. So, as I've been involved in the civil society area, the nonprofit area, it's things that I've just noticed, and I'm trying to trying to improve myself, trying to improve the structures of the organization, and trying to make headway in the civil society world, in the nonprofit world also.
Thank you, Kudak Gwakshe. I congratulate you, and I thanks for your effort and that you never quit. I learned from all the nonprofit leaders of Africa, your organization, United Nations organization. It's hard for to say that we deserve a salary and dignity at our jobs. It's hard to see that leaders of companies and leaders of governments, and some of them, they receive a salary, they receive a budget for their projects, they have access to things without a big effort, and the chain and the circle of economy and the way how resources goes to real project is not fair, in a way that it's the self-isolation and the situation for the collaborators of the nonprofit, because that idea and that image needs to change, because it's a very honorable way work. It's productive work. It's the work that deserves more contributions. It's the jobs that deserves more budgets without asking, without if we go to real transparency in a way, not just in a local way, in an international way. It's what the human needs. We need to evaluate what each of us is doing and collaborating with people to support the social actions. If a nation has social activity as nonprofits and it's big, huge group of people, as Ty was telling me yesterday, if they have 3,000 people in Israel working on, they can go with the government. It depends on the legal and policies of each nation, but they can ask for a social budget to get salaries. I'm searching for that in Mexico. I haven't achieved that goal. I want to have a budget to pay salary at least for 14 of each of the leaders of key projects of my organization. And instead of that, we have decided to close our efforts to working the governmental programs in the way that we were doing, and start sharing and searching with the private sector and with people to get the support that we need to keep on going. So thank you for sharing that in Zimbabwe. We have shared a contact that Mr. Sonigi Tuepke. She lives in Nigeria. He's the main director of Crossroad Environmental Town. And he was also supporting us with creating the list of projects and nonprofit in that area in Africa. And that will help us as well to share with you in the next month what's going on in the high-level political forums at the United Nations. I recommended you should also have information of that, right? To that washer. Well, I hope that he participated in those forums. The high-level political forum. It's proper the best way to search for those policies and ideas. I would like to ask how different ideas to the nonprofit leaders of how we can get united to create a policy of having access, real access to the international funds for environmental, for health, for all the nonprofit objectives. I don't know if we have a list, Jen, of different nonprofit objectives that we were participating.
We don't, but we can start to build that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do see that we are at time. I'm going to put the link to our nonprofit group in the Coursera community in the chat. That way we can stay connected and continue these amazing conversations and resource sharing in that way. But thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the listeners that are going to watch on their own time. I sure learned a lot, and I hope you all did and will too. And I hope to see you in the online community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, take care. See you all soon.